Boy, it's been a long time since I made a video. Sorry about that. I've been really busy at work, and honestly, I've been playing way too much Fortnite. But let's jump into this one. So if you follow Dynamic Discs on YouTube, I've been doing an instructional series there called Physics of Flight. And it's basically the first one I broke down driving, backhand driving, as best as I know how, and it's all in one place in 3 roughly 10-minute episodes on Physics of Flight. And the next one I broke down disc types and shot shapes. But on every one of those, I get a comment that says, if this is called Physics of Flight, why isn't it about the actual physics behind a disc flying? And the answer to that is because I don't think it's that interesting, and I didn't think it would be very practical. So I was wrong on one of those. It's very interesting, but I still don't think it's very practical. So that's the purpose of this video, to put the actual physics behind a disc flying out there as concise as I can. Now, I am not a physicist. I don't think I've even ever taken a physics course. So I am going to get something wrong here, I guarantee. And my favorite comment pointing out something that I got wrong, I will pin at the bottom. And I'm doing a giveaway for that comment. So I will have a Danny Stanton Maverick on your way. As soon as you see your comment pinned, I'll reply to it or whatever. Just message my Facebook page, and I will get that sent out to you as quick as I can. Real quick, sources. My sources for this video are The Complete Guide to Disc Golf by Justin Minichelli and Ryan Pickens. This is a great book that covers most of the basics of disc golf. And the chapter that I'm really using here is called The Dynamics of Disc Flight. Also, there's a YouTube video on Gyroscopic Precession and a Reddit post that I will link all of those in the description if you want to do more reading. Like I said, I'm not a physicist, I'm just really good at Google. So the first thing we're going to look at is speed. So speed is a measurement of how aerodynamic a disc is. So how much form drag a disc has while it's flying through the air. So form drag is how much air the disc has to push out of the way to move forward, right? If we were throwing discs in a vacuum, they would fly forever. But they stop flying because of the air around them, and the air affects them based on the form drag. So something like a driver, which has a very thin profile, is going to have a lot less form drag than a putter. So it's going to be easier to throw the driver farther because it's going to have less wind resistance based on that form drag. Also, something like a putter is going to have the weight more centralized. The weight is going to be closer to the middle than a driver because the driver has all the weight in the rim out here, and the putter doesn't have that big rim, so the weight's more distributed. So something like a putter is going to rotate faster than something like a driver, just like a figure skater with their arms pulled in. The putters are going to rotate faster than the driver, and that's going to give them more gyroscopic stability. So what gyroscopic stability is when something is rotating, it has a lot of inertia going in this circle, and so it takes more force than if it wasn't rotating to take it offline. So to change how it is, to change the angle that it's on. So how that relates to disc golf is a faster spinning disc is going to fly straighter. It's going to be on less of an anhyzer, less of a hyzer, and generally fly straighter than a driver, which is going to be rotating slower and carving big lines. A quick note too, some discs are molded with a different weighted material around the outside, so it's even heavier. And what that does is it slows down the rotation even more. So they are generally not going to be spinning as fast, and they're going to be harder to get to fly straight, but they're going to be great for shaping big hyzers or big turnovers. It's just going to be hard to get them to fly that dead straight frozen rope sort of line. So next is glide. Glide is lift. That's how much lift a disc generates while it's flying. So discs generate lift based on the Bernoulli principle. So the Bernoulli principle is that air moving faster, I definitely had to Google this, by the way. Air moving faster has less pressure than air that's moving slower. So when a disc like a driver is flying through the air moving over the top basically has farther to go than the air on the bottom, so it's going to move faster. And that's going to create less pressure and generate that lift. It basically sucks the disc up. But something like a putter doesn't direct as much air over top, so it's a lot easier to control the distance on a putter than it is on a driver because the driver is going to have that lift and the putter is not. Real quick, the camera just changed because I flipped it to selfie mode because on the other mode it stopped recording randomly and I'm having to redo the second half of this video. So next is turn. Turn was the hardest to figure out because lots of videos like to talk about discs flying straight because of the gyroscopic stability and the wind resistance, but they don't talk about how the disc will change angles while it's flying. It's really hard to find something on that, so hopefully this is a good resource for that. So real quick, we want discs to turn because discs will move in the direction of the angle that they're on. That's because they're falling and the wind is being pushed out from underneath them. It changes where the pressure is, and that's going to push them in that direction. So like center of mass is like center of gravity. it's the middle of the disc always, but center of pressure, where all the air pressure is acting on the disc, is going to change based on the angle and also the type of disc. Something like a putter is going to have a center of pressure much closer to the middle than something like a driver. So why do discs turn? Discs turn because of something called gyroscopic precession. This was a YouTube video that I'm going to link in the description that describes it much better than me. But basically, if something is rotating and you apply a force 90 or perpendicular to the direction it's rotating, rather than, like if this disc is rotating and I push down at the back, rather than the back going down, it's actually going to be 90 degrees to it. It's going to be on this side. And that's because what I'm doing is I'm not moving the back down, I'm just applying a downward force. And so that force is going to be carried to the left by the rotation, if that makes sense. So here, I'll demonstrate it a little bit. I discovered this last time I was filming this. I can rotate this disc on my finger and push down at the back, and the disc tilts this way because of gyroscopic precession. So why is that important? That's important because that's what causes discs to turn. When a disc is flying nose down, it has air going above it and underneath it. And if the air going above it supplies a downward force on a clockwise disc, like a backhand does, that downward force coming into the front is going to be rotated around to the side, and it's going to cause it to change angles this direction. So if you were throwing it towards me and it was rotating this way, the wind resistance coming onto the front here is going to cause it like that. Is that right? I don't know. I might be wrong. If it's wrong, I'll just edit it out. That's cool. This is why nose down is so important, because if a disc is flying nose up, even less wind is going to be going over top of it, and it's going to be even harder to get that downward force on the front, causing the turn. So understable discs are generally going to have a lower nose than overstable discs, because that means that's what directs the air over top. An overstable disc is going to have a higher nose because that's going to stop the air from going over top and causing it to turn. But the air going over the top is also what supplies the lift, so that's why understable discs are generally glidier than overstable discs. Also, domey discs, sometimes they will pull the parting line of the disc up when they get that dome, and that creates a more overstable disc. And sometimes they will just curve it all down, and that creates a more understable disc. Or sometimes a flat top disc will sort of squish the disc this way and make it more overstable, or sometimes a flat top disc will just squish everything down and make it more understable. So it's hard to tell whether dome makes a disc more stable or less stable without comparing it side by side to another one and seeing where the nose is. So this is the part where I'm going to need to be called out on the comments. As a disc beats in, it gets more turn. And I don't think that's from bending the nose down from hitting trees. I think that's from scratches around the outside, creating a turbulent air zone, sort of like the dimples on a golf ball, and that basically makes the nose bigger. The turbulent air zone takes more of the air that's hitting the disc in general and shoves it over top, creating that turn. That's my guess, but if you know why or you have different ideas, please drop them in the comments. I would love to hear them. All right, and last is fade. So as discs are flying, they slow down, they stay on the same angle, but they start to fall because they don't have that forward momentum generating that lift. And so as they're falling, the wind, rather than coming at the front, is sort of coming at the bottom. So that's less air going over top and more air coming into the bottom. So because they're moving forward and falling, that creates upward push right here on the front, and that causes the angle to change this way, and it creates fade. So that's what I think anyway. That's why discs fade at the end, is because of gyroscopic precession, and also they're falling, and that causes the disc to change angles that direction. So that's all I have for this video. I thought it was going to be super boring and impractical, and it turns out it's just impractical. So thank you for watching. If I got anything wrong, please let me know in the comments. I trust that you will. Check out Physics of Flight on the Dynamic Discs channel. Definitely, that's a fantastic series that I've put a ton of work into. And I guess that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Always remember, slow is smooth, and smooth is far.